Vaesen is definitely geared towards heavy roleplay, puzzles, and mysteries, but that doesn't mean from time to time you won't need to roll up your sleeves and throw down in fisticuffs. Let's go over combat in Vaesen. Initiative in Vaesen is usually handled by having each player and NPC draw from a deck of 10 cards. The number you pull represents your initiative and the lowest card acts first. Pretty simple, right? Well, in Alchemy, it's even easier. Just simply toggle the turn order switch under the NPC tab, and you're done. Alchemy will automatically calculate a turn order for you. Some characters and NPCs are able to draw twice for initiative, or even have multiple spots in a single round of combat. For anyone that can draw initiative twice, just type /roll 1d10 in the journal field and take whichever initiative the ability calls for. And for any NPCs that may have multiple turns in a single round, duplicate their token in the NPC tab and drag and drop them where the initiative card calls for. Obviously, if it's a duplicate initiative number, just re-roll until you get a new one. In combat, swapping initiatives is pretty common. You can choose to swap initiatives with any other player at the top of the round, or if you manage to roll extra successes on an attack roll, dodge, or parry, you can outmaneuver your opponent, allowing you to swap your initiatives with them. Alchemy makes this easy by being able to drag and drop everyone within the turn order. In Vaesen, there are two actions that you can take in every round of combat: a slow action and a fast action. Slow actions can only take place during your immediate turn, while fast actions can be held and used throughout the round. You can also choose to use two fast actions in a round in place of your slow action. Slow actions take time and usually require you to make a skill test of some sort. Going down the list, here are some examples of slow actions you can take: attacking with a melee or ranged weapon, or making an unarmed attack; wrestling, pushing, grappling, fleeing, persuading, luring an enemy to a certain place, performing a ritual, which often takes more than one round, treating injuries for a broken character. Here are some more examples of fast actions that you can take: drawing or swapping your weapon, standing up, shouting more than a few words, closing a door, moving within your zone or moving into the next zone, and taking cover. Things like dodging, parrying, breaking free, holding, chasing, and resisting magic are some additional fast actions that normally get held until needed during a round, sort of a reaction to the things that are going on in combat. Attacking with weapons or your fists use different tests. Unarmed is force, melee is close combat, and ranged is, well, ranged combat. Weapon damage and range is shown in the description of the weapon or in the journal card after making an attack. Weapon damage is the amount of physical conditions the target receives if hit. Any extra successes on the roll can go towards increasing the damage of conditions taken, 1 per success, or swapping initiatives with the target. When using ranged weapons or moving quickly from one position to the next, we really need to define zones in range. Zones can vary in size depending on terrain, but GMs should define those different zones across a battle map as well as possible places to take cover. A zone should be defined as a location that only takes a couple steps to engage an enemy in close combat. For example, in a house, each room would be considered its own zone. Range is defined using zones, so if a melee weapon can only hit something in the same zone as it, it'll show as having a range of 0. A weapon with a range of 0 to 1 means it can be used within melee or within the zone adjacent to the target. A rifle has a range of 1 to 3, meaning it can't be shot within the same zone as the target, only in the adjacent zone and up to 2 further zones away. If a character happens to be wearing armor when they're attacked, you'll roll the number of dice associated with the level of protection the armor you're wearing offers and subtract any damage you've taken by the number of successes that you roll. Taking cover behind objects works identically to armor, although it cannot protect you from attacks within the same zone as you. The hardiness of the thing you hide behind kind of determines its protection level. A piece of furniture might be a 3, while an entire house wall might be a 6. Another action that you'll need to remember when being attacked is your dodging or parrying fast action. If you save your fast action that round, and before you know if the enemy succeeds on their attack, you can react by rolling an agility test to dodge, or a force or close combat test depending on whether you're unarmed or armed, in order to parry the attack. Each success on these rolls deducts 1 success from the enemy's attack. Deducting all successes towards the target causes the attack to miss. Wrestling and grappling is pretty easy, as you and your opponent make opposing force tests, the attacker with their slow action and the target with their fast. If the attacker succeeds, the target is restrained and can't use their actions other than trying to break free or shout. You can even cover their mouth with extra successes. Using your agility, you can attempt to flee or give chase. A successful flee will leave the fight entirely, but there are some obstacles. You can't flee through a zone containing an enemy, unless you start to flee in the same zone as them. And you or an enemy can attempt to give chase using a reactionary agility test. If all fleeing successes are cancelled out by chasing successes, the fight continues and both people move one zone in the direction they were trying to flee towards. Sneaking can be done with a stealth test against the opponent's vigilance. Any extra successes on the stealth check can go towards adding dice to the first action you take in combat if it arises, giving you somewhat of a sneak attack. If the stealth check is unsuccessful, your opponent may roll an extra initiative card and select the better if combat is warranted. Catching on fire works on a sliding scale. The worse the fire, the more damage you'll take at the start of each round. You'll make 2 tests for fire. A force test to try and resist the damage at the top of the round if you're actively burning, and an agility test on your turn to attempt to put out the fire. Don't forget that fire spreads, so at the start of each round, the GM will roll a single d6. On a success, the fire's intensity and damage grows by 1, so get people to help put you out. Poison is measured by toxicity in Vaesen. When delivering or being subjected to poison, the GM and the player will make opposing rolls. Whomever is delivering the poison will roll as many dice equal to the toxicity of it. The recipient must roll force. If the recipient is successful, no damage is taken. If it's a tie on successes, the recipient suffers 1 physical condition. And on a failure, the recipient receives a number of conditions equal to the poison's successes. You can get rid of a poison in 2 ways. You can wait it out and take conditions each round, 1 less per round, or you can cancel it out completely with an antidote or by passing a medicine test with as many successes as the poison's remaining damage. And finally, we arrive at the last but maybe the most beloved mechanic in Vaesen, fear tests. When encountering Vaesen, being exposed to magic, or feeling scared or stressed as a result of seeing something horrible like dead bodies, it takes effort not to lose control and become terrified. When making a fear test, you'll need to roll a raw logic or empathy check and add d6s to the pool depending on how many other players are present in the scene with you when the fear takes hold, up to a max of 3 additional dice. If you succeed, the fear dissipates, but if you fail, your character becomes terrified. You'll then need to do 3 things right away. First, you'll suffer a number of mental conditions equal to the fear value that the GM has set, subtracting damage by any successes you had during your fear test. Second, you roll a single d6. This will determine how many rounds you're terrified for. And lastly, when terrified, you must choose from 4 options. You can choose to either flee, freeze, faint, or attack. Fleeing means you just get out of dodge towards your nearest exit. Freezing has you remain completely immobilized. This may help you to stay hidden if what scared you hasn't noticed you just yet. You can faint, which works mechanically identical except that you pass out. Or lastly, you can choose to attack the nearest hostile person with whatever you happen to be holding at the time. You can't do anything else until your hostile is either vanquished or your fear subsides. During this time, you can't take any fast actions and explode into a fit of rage if there's nothing left to attack. Pretty intense stuff. But that's it for this video. If you haven't already, go and check out our other videos on Vaesen where I go more into the game's lore or show you all the things you can do out of combat. If you like these videos, go ahead and click that subscribe button and leave a comment about what TTRPG system you'd like to see me tackle next. Thanks everyone, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye now.